What do you do when your family demands everything from you yet never sees your worth? Lily had always been the one to give. Her family depended on her, and she supported them without hesitation, half of her paycheck each month to ensure their comfort. But when her wedding day arrived, her mother demanded she cancel everything to save the family business, a business her brother destroyed. When Lily said no, her mother slapped her across the face. Lily had always been the reliable one, the dependable one, sacrificing her happiness for them. But now, she was finally standing up for herself. Stay tuned to see how Lily takes control of her life, and don't forget to subscribe for more powerful stories. I had always been there for my family, giving them half of my paycheck every month, doing everything I could to make their lives easier. But then, my mother demanded I cancel my wedding to save the family business, a business my brother had destroyed with his reckless spending. When I said no, she slapped me hard across the face, and everything went dark as I stumbled back, crashing into the wall behind me. I'm Lily. For as long as I can remember, I've been the one holding my family together, the responsible daughter, the dependable one. I've always given, supported, and sacrificed more of myself than I ever received in return. I'm a project manager now, and while I've built a successful career, it often feels like my life isn't my own. The day I started working full-time, I began giving my parents nearly half of my monthly income, ensuring they lived comfortably, no matter the cost to me. Thorn, my younger brother, was always the favorite. 5 years younger, yet he was always the one who got the praise, the attention, and the best of everything. I was the practical one, the one who would step in and do what was necessary, while he basked in adoration, celebrated for every small thing. I gave, I sacrificed, hoping one day my parents would see me not for what I could give them, but for who I was. But everything changed recently when my parents' demands reached an unbearable level. Thorn had taken over the family business, a modest but cherished enterprise my parents had worked hard to build. They adored the idea of him leading their legacy, often talking about how he'd take the business to new heights. Instead, he was driving it into the ground. His poor management, reckless spending, and endless mistakes had plunged the business into financial ruin. And as always, they looked to me, the reliable one, to fix it. Just days before my wedding, my mother called me. "Lily, we need you to help us," she said, her voice calm, like this was just another routine request. "The business is in trouble, and your brother, well, he needs a little support to get it back on track." My stomach twisted into knots. Here I was, finally planning something for myself, something that wasn't about them, my wedding, my future, my happiness, and she was asking me to drain everything I'd saved to cover Thorn's mistakes. "Mom," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady despite the anger rising in my chest. "I've always been here to support you, but I can't bail out the business. I have my own future to think about." There was a silence on the other end of the line, long and heavy. Then she spoke, her voice colder than I'd ever heard it. "So, you're just going to abandon us after everything we've done for you? You're going to walk away?" I took a deep breath, my heart pounding in my chest. "I'm not abandoning anyone, Mom. I'm choosing to prioritize my life for once. I'm getting married, and I can't risk everything I've saved." Her tone grew sharper. "Lily, this isn't just about money, it's about family. Your father and I have always counted on you. Thorn needs you, and if you don't step up now, this business could fall apart." My heart raced as I realized just how deep their expectations ran. It was as if my own dreams didn't matter, as if my life existed solely to serve them and support Thorn. "I can't, Mom," I said firmly. "I've given you so much. It's time Thorn takes responsibility." She hung up without another word, but I could feel the weight of her disappointment through the silence. The next day, I was in my apartment reviewing the final details for the wedding when there was a loud knock on my door. I opened it to see my mother standing there, her expression twisted in anger. "What are you doing here?" I asked, shocked to see her. She pushed her way in, barely looking at me as she stepped inside. "How could you?" she spat. "How could you turn your back on us when we need you most?" I took a step back, startled by the anger in her eyes. "Mom, I'm not turning my back on anyone, but I've done everything you asked. I've given you almost half my salary every month, and I'm days away from getting married. I can't throw my future away to fix Thorne's mistakes." Her eyes narrowed, and before I could react, she raised her hand and slapped me hard across the face. The shock of it left me speechless. "How dare you talk to me like that?" she shouted. "After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us? You don't disobey me, Lily. You owe this family everything." My cheek burned from the slap, but the pain that stung deeper was in my heart. This was the moment I realized that I was nothing more to them than a provider. I had given so much of myself, but it was never enough. My sacrifices, my love, my support, it would never matter because I was never the one they truly cared about. I took a shaky breath, fighting back the tears. "Mom, I can't keep sacrificing my happiness to cover for everyone else. I love you, but I'm not going to let you control my life any longer." She sneered, crossing her arms. "Fine, but don't expect us to be there for you when you come crawling back. You're making a huge mistake, Lily. Don't come running to us when your selfishness catches up to you." Her words were sharp, meant to cut, but for the first time I didn't feel the sting. Instead, I felt a strange sense of freedom, a weight lifting from my shoulders. I didn't need her approval or validation. This was my life, and I was finally taking control. After my mother stormed out, I stood there in silence, letting the weight of what had just happened settle over me. My cheek still stung from the slap, but it was nothing compared to the realization that had dawned upon me. I have been living my entire life trying to be the perfect daughter, the dependable one, the source of financial and emotional support, but in their eyes, I was only ever a means to an end. That evening, Astor came over to help finalize some wedding plans. The moment he saw my face, he could tell something was wrong. He walked over, his hand gently cupping my cheek, examining the redness on my skin. "Lily, what happened?" I tried to steady myself, but my voice quivered as I explained everything. "My mom, she came over and slapped me. She demanded I bail out the family business with my savings right before our wedding." Astor's face darkened with anger, his hands tightening as he pulled me into a tight embrace. "Lily, you don't deserve this. You've given everything to them, and now they just keep asking for more, without giving anything back." "I know," I whispered, barely able to speak. "But it's hard. I've spent my whole life trying to make them proud, trying to be the one they could always count on. And now, it feels like they see me as nothing more than a source of money and support." Astor held me close, his voice soft but unwavering. "You're not just their support, Lily. You're a person with dreams, and those dreams matter. I don't want you to feel guilty for choosing yourself this time." His words, simple yet profound, pierced through the walls I had built around my heart. For the first time in what felt like forever, I felt seen. Astor wasn't just my partner. He was the one person who stood by me, without conditions, without demands. We spent the rest of the evening together, going over our wedding plans, our future. For the first time, I felt like I was moving forward, not trapped in the past or living up to anyone else's expectations. In the days leading up to the wedding, the messages from my mother didn't stop. Texts, voicemails, even emails flooded my phone, each more desperate and accusatory than the last. "Lily, you're making a huge mistake," one message read. "When this wedding falls apart, don't expect us to welcome you back. Family comes first, and you're putting yourself above everyone else." I deleted each message without responding. The guilt and shame she had once used to manipulate me no longer had its hold. I knew that choosing myself wasn't selfish. It was the first real step I had taken toward living my own life. The night before the wedding, Aunt Violet called. She had heard about the fallout with my parents and wanted to check in on me. "Lily," she said gently, "I know your mother's been saying some harsh things, but I want you to know you're doing the right thing. You've given more than enough to this family, and you deserve to be happy." A lump formed in my throat. Aunt Violet had always been one of the few people who cared about me not for what I could give, but for who I truly was. "Thank you, Aunt Violet," I whispered, my voice heavy with emotion. "It's just hard, letting go of everything I've done for them. I keep wondering if I'm making the wrong choice." "You're not," she replied, her voice warm and reassuring. You're finally choosing yourself, and there's nothing wrong with that." Her words, simple yet powerful, eased some of the weight pressing on my chest. With Aunt Violet's and Astor's unwavering support, I felt ready. I was stepping into my wedding day, not as a person still bound by family obligations, but as someone who had chosen a future for herself. The morning of the wedding arrived. As I prepared, a sense of calm washed over me. The usual anxiety I'd felt at family gatherings was gone, replaced by quiet resolve. Today was mine and Astor's a celebration of a new chapter, one that I had chosen. As I stood before the mirror, dressed in my gown, I saw a different version of myself, a version free from the weight of family expectations, finally able to embrace her own path. For the first time, I felt like I was truly me. Astor's family and a few of my closest friends were there, supportive and eager to share in our joy. Aunt Violet was also there, a comforting presence who'd been a beacon of support in these difficult times. When I walked down the aisle and saw Astor waiting for me, his face lit up with pride and warmth. It was a look that said, "I see you, Lily, the real you." Yeet. At that moment, I knew that everything I'd endured, all the hardship and sacrifice, had led me to this moment of pure freedom and joy. We exchanged our vows, promising to be there for each other in ways I'd never experienced before. Astor spoke about standing by my side, supporting my dreams, and seeing me for who I truly was, not just for what I could give. Those words felt like a balm, healing years of pain from feeling unseen and undervalued. After the ceremony, we moved to a small reception with just a few close friends and family. It was simple and intimate, filled with laughter, love, and genuine happiness. There were no pretenses, no expectations of what I owed to anyone. For the first time, I felt surrounded by people who celebrated me, not for the support I provided, but simply for being myself. As the reception wound down, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't known before. I realized that while my parents and Thorne had chosen to distance themselves, I had chosen to start a life that was mine alone, shared only with those who truly valued me. In the days after the wedding, Astor and I packed our things and moved to Austin, eager to start fresh in a city where we could build our life without the weight of my family's demands looming over us. But the transition wasn't without its challenges. Just days after settling into our new apartment, my phone buzzed. It was a message from my mother, blunt and harsh, dripping with accusations. "You've abandoned your family. You chose yourself over us. When things go wrong, don't expect us to be there for you." The words cut deep, but I read them with a strength I hadn't known I had. These were the same manipulative tactics I'd faced all my life, guilt-laden words meant to reel me back into their control. But this time, I didn't feel the familiar tug. Instead, I felt a quiet confidence settle within me. I had made the right choice. Astor noticed the change one evening as we sat on our balcony, the Austin skyline glowing in front of us. He wrapped his arm around me, his voice steady and warm. "Lily, I'm proud of you," he said. "I know it hasn't been easy, but you've come so far. You're free from all of that now." His simple words filled me with a sense of accomplishment I didn't even know I needed. For years, I had been weighed down by the pressure to be the perfect daughter, the unwavering supporter. But now, for the first time in my life, I was breathing freely. I was living for myself. Weeks turned into months, and life with Astor became everything I had ever hoped for. We dreamed of the future, talked about our plans, and fantasized about starting a family one day. Our life was simple, but it was ours, and it was free from the toxic cycle I had been trapped in for so long. One afternoon, I got a call from my cousin, Basil. He had heard about everything that had happened, and he wanted to reach out. His voice was filled with genuine remorse. "Lily, I just wanted to say I'm sorry," he said. "I don't know why they treated you that way. You've always deserved better." The words hit me harder than I expected. I hadn't expected an apology, but hearing someone in my family acknowledge my pain meant more than I could express. "Thank you, Basil," I replied, my voice soft. "It's been hard, but I'm finally in a place where I feel free." His words reminded me that while I had distanced myself from my parents, there were still people who cared. Over the next few months, I began to rebuild the relationships that truly mattered, those with Aunt Violet, Uncle Jacob, a few cousins, and close friends. They were the people who saw me for who I was, not just for what I could give. However, my relationship with my parents remained strained. The years of manipulation, the slap, the constant prioritizing of Thorn over me, those things were hard to forget. Every time I thought about reaching out, the pain resurfaced. The sacrifices I had made, the constant feeling of being valued only for what I could provide, it was a cycle I knew I couldn't go back to. I had to accept that my life would be better without their influence. Then, months after the wedding, I received a final message from my mother. It was short, almost desperate. "I miss you, Lily. Please call me." I stared at the screen, the familiar tug of guilt beginning to pull at me. But this time, I didn't waver. I looked around at the life Aster and I had built, the peace I had fought so hard for, and I knew what I had to do. I typed a simple, firm response. "I'm happy with the life I built. I can't go back to what it was. I need to move forward." As I hit send, a wave of closure washed over me. I had let go of the past, the expectations, the obligations, the weight of everything that had held me down for so long. I looked at Aster, at the life we were creating, and for the first time in my life, I felt truly free. What do you do when the people who are supposed to love you most are the ones who constantly take, demand, and manipulate, leaving you with nothing but guilt and exhaustion? Lily had always been the dependable daughter, giving everything she had to her family. From her paycheck to her dreams, she sacrificed endlessly, hoping one day her family would see her for who she truly was. But when her mother demanded she cancel her wedding to bail out her brother's failing business, Lily realized she was nothing more than a tool to fix their mistakes. The slap across her face was the wake-up call she needed. For the first time, Lily chose herself. She chose to finally stop sacrificing her happiness for people who only saw her as a source of support. She stood firm in her decision, even when her family tried to guilt-trip her into submission. They didn't get it, but that's okay. Because for the first time in her life, Lily was free to live for herself. The question now is, what would you do in Lily's shoes? Would you have walked away sooner? Or would you have kept giving, hoping things would change? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this story powerful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more.
You can't be serious, Derek. The words tumbled out before I could even process the document he'd just slapped down in front of me. Divorce papers. We were just hours away from leaving for our dream honeymoon in Bali, and my fiancé of 2 years wanted to call the whole wedding off. I glared up at him, rage boiling inside me. "Explain yourself. Now." Derek swallowed, avoiding my searing gaze. "It's my parents. They insist on coming with us on the trip, or else they'll make you divorce me? Is that what our relationship means to you?" "No, Marissa, that's not. Save it." I held up a hand. Blood roared in my ears. After all my efforts navigating his manipulative family, he still bent to their every command. "I refuse to spend my honeymoon catering to your overbearing mother's ego." "Please try to understand," Derek pleaded. "It's just how my family is. Traditional. They feel like they should be included in all major events." I crossed my arms. "And you didn't think to mention this sooner? We sent out the invitations months ago. Everything is booked." I know. He slumped down in the nearest chair. "I thought if I told you earlier, you'd call the wedding off. Mom insisted I wait until the last second." Cold fury washed over me. So this ambush was strategic. Evelyn deliberately chose our weakest moment to force her demands. Now the coward expected sympathy? I met his watery gaze, anger broiling inside me. How could I have been so stupid to not see through this ruse? He sipped vodka, liquid courage to gaslight me. Behind his pathetic facade hid a spineless mama's boy, drunk on control. My voice dropped to a venomous whisper. "Get out. I'm calling this thing off myself." Panic flashed across Derek's face. "Marissa, please, we can work through this." He reached for my hand. I recoiled sharply. "Don't touch me. It's clear where your priorities lie, and frankly, I refuse to play second fiddle to your lunatic family." He flinched like I'd slapped him across the face. A year ago, that vulnerability would have softened me, but now the gesture only fanned my fury. How many times had his toxic relatives belittled, undermined, and insulted me? I was done being silenced and pushed around. I strode forward until we stood nose to nose. If you had an ounce of integrity, you'd stand up to them instead of hiding behind Mommy's skirt like an infant. My finger jabbed into his chest, punctuating each remark as his eyes bugged with fear. But unfortunately, you were raised to be helpless, weak, codependent. With impeccable timing, his phone rang. Evelyn's smug face flashed on the screen. I spun away before I slapped her image off the table. This ended now. I would not be blindsided again. As I packed my bags, resolve fortified my shaking limbs. If it was war Evelyn wanted, then war she would have. The morning light filtering into my studio provided little warmth as I scrutinized the guest list for our would-be wedding reception. One by one, I mentally cataloged each name based on their level of enmeshment with Evelyn's toxic web of social connections. I reflected bitterly how I once viewed this list as the bonding of my chosen family with Derek's. How naive I'd been. A knock interrupted my brooding. My assistant Josie entered, her arms full of fabric samples for an upcoming client consultation. One look at my expression and her cheerful smile faded. "What's wrong?" She dropped the swatches on my desk with a soft whump. "Did that witch make trouble again?" I let out a harsh laugh. That's putting it mildly. Over the next half hour, I recounted the ambush and ensuing fallout. Josie's shock shifted to outrage the more details I shared. "That absolute harpy!" Josie exploded, crashing her fist on my desk. Model houses and fabric samples jumped. She planned this sabotage from the start, waited until you couldn't back out without losing thousands. I dropped my head in my hands with a groan. I walked straight into their trap. I should have trusted my instincts when his family resisted every wedding plan. Josie clasped my shoulder, her expression solemn. "This wasn't your fault. Derek misled you, probably under orders from that Gorgon he calls mother." Anger reignited in my gut. Josie was right. Evelyn orchestrated this pretense of support while plotting my removal once I fully committed. I thought of her smug expression when I asked for input on centerpieces, cake designs, vows. My head jerked upward. "The speech!" Josie frowned. "What speech?" I gripped her wrist, mind racing. "My bridesmaid speech, where I planned to publicly thank Evelyn for welcoming me into their family." I groaned, envisioning her barely concealed delight. She knew I'd be humiliated when Derek left me at the altar. Josie's eyes narrowed to slits. "That heartless witch!" I strode toward my mock-ups and fabric samples. A plan was formulating. Evelyn's machinations had provided the perfect ammunition. Now I would deploy it against her. I turned to Josie with new conviction. "Help me tear this place apart. We need to examine every wedding-related item with Evelyn's fingerprints. There must be more evidence of her plotting." Josie met my gaze, mirroring my look of dawning comprehension. Together we would expose Evelyn's deceit and render her the social pariah she deserved to be. Derek may have abandoned our partnership, but I had Josie's fierce loyalty, and that meant everything to me now. "Let's give that old crone a taste of her own medicine," Josie said through gritted teeth. I squeezed her hand, gratitude and anticipation coursing through me. "Game on, Evelyn. Your reckoning is coming." The following weeks passed in a blur of late nights pored over scandalous wedding mementos. Each custom invitation mocked me, Evelyn's fingerprints all over the intricate floral details she insisted complement the lace and chiffon monstrosity of a dress she selected. Like a spider, the cunning woman spun her web slowly, ensnaring me strand by silken strand. Josie became my anchor during this turbulent period. Together we dissected the mountain of wedding debris occupying my studio space, seeking any clue that could aid my vengeance. "Bingo!" Josie yelled late one Tuesday night. I jerked awake where I had nodded off at my work table, nearly upending my stone-cold coffee. Josie stood near the mock altar, holding a framed photo from Derek's cousin's wedding 2 years prior. "Sorry, didn't mean to startle you," she said, "but look what I found in the pile of Derek's stuff." I squinted at the image of Derek dancing with a blonde woman, their bodies pressed together suggestively. My gut twisted with anger and vindication. So Derek's wandering eye wasn't a recent development after all. Josie shook her head with disgust. "I remember Evelyn boasting this was the event where Derek introduced her to you. Guess she conveniently forgot the part where her darling boy toy got handsy with another woman behind his girlfriend's back." My fists clenched with the urge to hurl something fragile. Instead, I took a deep breath. Have that photo printed and discreetly show a few key people. Let the gossip mill do some work for us. Josie's grin turned wolfish. With pleasure. I know just who to share this with, too. That will get tongues wagging. She tucked the frame under her arm and sauntered out. As the door swung shut, my phone buzzed with an incoming text. The name sapped the momentary satisfaction right out of me. Derek. Speak of the devil. I stared down at the screen, debating between ignoring it and indulging my curiosity. Curiosity won out. Derek. Hey, babe. Mom's still pretty upset about us postponing the wedding. Wants to meet up to clear the air. I scowled. The gall of that woman playing innocent while her spineless son begged me to reconcile with her. Evelyn orchestrated this entire debacle. If anyone owed apologies, it was her. Still, the text presented an opportunity. Perhaps I could covertly gather intel for my brewing plot. And honestly, I craved watching Evelyn squirm when she realized her machinations failed. After some consideration, I typed a response. Me, fine. Meet me tomorrow at our old cafe, just you and me. Leave your mother out of this. Derek began typing immediately, but I silenced my phone and headed home before he could worm his way back into my thoughts further. I needed rest for the performance of a lifetime tomorrow. Evelyn would rue the day she chose me as her adversary. With Josie's help securing damning evidence, I would avenge myself yet. I arrived at the cafe early, surveying the space like a cougar seeking vulnerable prey. Fortunately, the quaint shop was nearly empty, save a few patrons nibbling scones with textbooks or laptops. I selected a small table in the back corner, ideal for monitoring the entrance while remaining inconspicuous. Right on time, the bell above the door chimed. I glimpsed Derek's sandy hair first as he scanned the room. His shoulders sagged with relief, spotting me tucked away. Odd. I expected to see his mother latched onto him despite my explicit request she not attend. Derek approached my table cautiously, as if nearing a hissing viper instead of his ex-fiancée. He cleared his throat. Hey, Marissa. Thanks for agreeing to meet me. I gestured curtly to the seat across from me. Best to get straight to business since he decided to follow my instructions for once. Might as well use the opportunity for intelligence gathering. As Derek settled into his chair, I crossed my arms against my chest as a makeshift shield. His eyes held that familiar puppy dog look I once found so charming. Now it only amplified my disgust. How could I have loved such a feeble coward? Well? I prompted when the silence stretched uncomfortably. You insisted on this little chat, so speak. He winced at my biting tone. Right, I know tensions are high lately with my family. I cut him off with a sharp laugh. Are you seriously trying to blame your mother for ambushing me with divorce papers days before our wedding? I'm aware of her manipulations, but you stood there holding the dagger, Derek. I didn't want to. He held up placating hands to halt my tirade. Mom gave me no choice, said I had to show my loyalty or she'd cut me off. My lip curled with disgust. So it all came down to money then? I leaned forward, time to poke the viper's nest. Well, you chose, and in doing so revealed exactly where we stood all along. That backstabbing display proved our relationship was a sham. Derek visibly paled. Come on, Marissa, don't say that. I still care deeply for you. His voice dropped. I was just protecting our future. I let out an acidic laugh that burned my throat. Our future? Don't make me laugh. I gripped his chin, relishing his wince. The only future you were protecting was your own, spineless as ever. I shoved his face away and grabbed my bag, resolved to purge this poison from my life forever. His gasps and stammers faded behind me as I strode proudly into my hard-won freedom. I strode out of the cafe with adrenaline pumping through my veins. The confrontation went even better than I imagined. Derek crumbled under the slightest pressure, revealing his spinelessness and Evelyn's vice grip on him. My suspicions were confirmed. Their family orchestrated this sabotage for financial gain, caring nothing for my dreams they eagerly crushed. Well, no more. I refused to waste another minute dwelling on their toxic web of lies. As I rounded the street corner, focused on hailing a taxi, my phone rang loudly. I didn't need to glance at the name flashing across the screen to guess who interrupted my dramatic exit. Likely the sniveling coward wanted the last word to salve his wounded pride. What do you want, Derek? I answered briskly, my tone sharp enough to sever bone. An acidic chuckle answered me instead. Come now, dear, is that any way to speak to your future mother-in-law? I froze in my tracks, knuckles whitening around my phone. Evelyn, I hissed between clenched teeth. To what do I owe the displeasure? Her answering laugh oozed false sympathy. Oh, I just had the most distressing chat with my son. He's absolutely inconsolable after your callous treatment earlier. Red flashed across my vision. I trembled with rage barely contained. Callous? I'm not the one who ambushed my fiancé with divorce papers and ridiculous ultimatums days before our wedding. Each word shot out like bullets from a machine gun. If anyone has been callous, deceitful, and manipulative here, it's you. A weighty pause followed my accusations, heavy with unspoken threats. When Evelyn spoke again, her prim voice dripped venom. Clearly this wedding debacle has overwhelmed that dramatic little mind of yours. Let's avoid further unpleasantness for all parties, shall we? The implication stood starkly against her genteel words. Comply or live to regret it. This time I embraced my fury like armor. Here's an idea, I replied, danger lurking beneath my steady tone. Stay out of my life from this moment on. Keep your toxicity away from me and we'll have no issue. I relished the sharp intake of breath through the phone, waited eagerly for her scathing retort. Instead, flat resignation greeted me after a taut minute. I see. Well then. Her icy words sliced the tense silence between us. I wish you luck finding someone willing to tolerate that disrespectful attitude of yours. You'll certainly need it with your deficiencies. I stood trembling on that busy sidewalk long after she disconnected. The final veiled insult echoed in my ears, an ominous portent. But this time I refused to cower before Evelyn's threats. I would have the last word. Squaring my shoulders, I continued onward with purpose, fueling each stride. My taxi waited around the corner, engine rumbling in anticipation. I slid inside, resolve stealing my nerves. Where to, miss? One glance at Derek's desperate stream of texts solidified my intent. The airport, I announced. I'm taking back my life. The tropical heat enveloped me like a heavy wool blanket as I exited the airport. Despite the late hour, thick moisture clung to my skin, an apt metaphor for the drama I hoped to leave behind. I breathed deeply, orienting myself in this foreign environment. The scent of salt and palm trees mingled with exhaust fumes as luggage-toting tourists filed past me to awaiting cars. So different from the carefully cultivated towers of steel and glass I designed, yet intriguing in its chaotic harmony all the same. As I headed toward the taxi queue, my burner phone vibrated, startling me from my contemplative reprieve. I grimaced, expecting another pleading missive from Derek, likely begging me to reconcile after his latest sob session with Mommy Dearest. The coward remained so securely apron-stringed I wagered Evelyn still taste-tested his meals daily. Instead, an unlisted number flashed across the cracked screen. Against my better judgment, I answered. Marissa Winters, I stated briskly. After the confrontation with Evelyn, taking risks felt exhilarating instead of terrifying. A throat cleared on the other end. Marissa, it's Richard Thomas. We met at Derek's firm Christmas party a while back. I racked my brain trying to conjure a face. Flashes of ugly Christmas sweaters and watered-down cocktails surfaced. Derek introduced me to so many of his colleagues that night, few made an impression. Except... Richard, of course, I exclaimed, snapping my fingers. You were the only charming person in the lot. How are you? He chuckled. I'm well. Listen, I apologize if contacting you seems forward, but I saw your RSVP cancellation and wanted to reach out. I bristled, preparing a frosty retort about gossip chains, but Richard continued sincerely, giving me pause. Truly sorry if I'm overstepping, but from our conversation at the party, you seemed quite lovely and too mature for Derek's circle. He hesitated before adding gently, I guess my instincts were right, considering the broken engagement. My defensiveness wavered at his somber tone. Perhaps word spread about Derek's family sabotaging our wedding far and wide if sympathetic colleagues reached out. Their deceit impacting my reputation fueled my next bold move. I smiled slyly. Richard, no need to apologize for calling. In fact, I'd love to get coffee sometime and... chat. I put slight emphasis on the final word, implying more. He inhaled sharply, clearly not expecting my response, but he recovered smoothly. Chat, huh? I'd be delighted. Maybe over dinner instead when you're next in town? It's a date. After finalizing plans to meet up in a few weeks, I hung up feeling re-energized. An attractive, successful man sought my company despite the gossip. Already my revenge stirred interest. Whistling to myself, I climbed into the waiting taxi, directing the driver to my oceanside resort. As we lurched into chaotic traffic under swaying palms, I reflected on the remaining loose ends awaiting my return home. But for now, tropical adventure called. And with Richard's intriguing overture, both business and pleasure soon awaited me. Stunning Derek's circles with my quick rebound would deliver the ultimate vengeance. I intended to savor every minute of their downfall, starting now. The weeks apart served me well, bringing much-needed distance and clarity. I channeled my energy into the budding relationship with Richard, now my official boyfriend. He accompanied me to various industry events, stealing Derek's spotlight effortlessly with his charisma and genuinely supportive nature. My reputation not only remained untarnished from the broken engagement, but improved tenfold on Richard's arm. Still, the thirst for vengeance simmered beneath the surface as Evelyn and Derek kept painfully low profiles in avoidance. Their absence from the social scene fueled rumors faster than any coordinated scheme. Josie kept me informed of the choicest gossip tidbits concerning their family's dirty laundry airing. "The vultures are circling," Josie commented one night as we reviewed her intelligence over dinner. "With you AWOL and their circle fractured, people feel emboldened to question Evelyn's authority." I smirked at that, taking a deliberately slow sip of wine, savoring the news. Perfect. Those frauds deserve every ounce of scrutiny coming their way. What about Derek? "Oh, he's positively miserable according to office chatter," Josie replied with relish. "Got passed over for some promotion thanks to your little coffee confrontation exposing his weak backbone." My laughter echoed around the table, unleashed and carefree at last. Let Derek drown in the career limbo his mommy dear sentenced him to, chained under her supervision. Served the coward right for casting me aside at her command. Several weeks later, karma came full circle at a benefit gala. I glided into the opulent ballroom on Richard's arm, effortlessly commanding attention in a shimmering A-line gown, exposing just enough skin to make heads turn discreetly. Outwardly cool and collected, despite the RSVP listing, Derek and his parents in attendance, I prepared to deliver a killing blow to their social standing. As we mingled casually amidst tinkling glasses and boisterous laughter, I spotted my targets whispering together in a distant corner. From their huddled postures and darting eyes, they clearly sensed predatory danger, but found themselves unable to escape my trap. I left Richard chatting with a colleague and cut deliberately across the room, 2 flutes of champagne in hand, as I closed in for the attack. My glittering smile remained locked in place as I stepped neatly into their space, just as their urgent whispers died. "Evelyn, darling!" I exclaimed brightly, leaning in to brush her stiff cheek with mine as I extended a champagne glass. "How wonderful to see you." Evelyn's answering smile sharpened into a grimace under her expertly blended makeup. Derek pointedly avoided my gaze beside her, wilting under the heat of my satisfying revenge. "Marissa," Evelyn replied, thin as glass and just as delicate. "What a surprise." Her eyes tracked Richard subtly as he observed our interaction nearby, assessing the new threat. I maintained my dazzling grin, refusing to cede ground. The board was so generous to include me for Table 9's auction item tonight, though I'm certain my date outbid your usual ask. I flashed my eyes coyly toward Richard, watching realization sink Evelyn's painted features. "Yes, well," she faltered uncharacteristically. "I suppose we misjudged your resilience after that unpleasant incident." Derek cringed at the mention, but remained silent. Still spineless as ever then. I almost pitied his misery. Almost. Instead, I channeled that simmering fury into a final, brutal strike. I stepped nearer and dropped my voice. "Clearly you underestimated me, Evelyn dear, attempted to bury me socially and career-wise, but only dug your own grave." I gestured subtly around us where partygoers observed our tense exchange. Rumors abound regarding certain indiscretions and manipulations, all thanks to your bungled schemes. Her eyes narrowed, hard and reflective as glass, but I continued before she uttered the threat teetering behind her lips. "However, seeing as tonight heralds new beginnings, allow me to extend professional courtesy." I allowed frost to permeate my sugary tone. "Stay out of my way permanently, and perhaps I refrain from exposing every excruciating detail of your family's cruelty. Are we clear? Evelyn's expression soured, no doubt swallowing venom. Through rigid lips she forced out, "Crystal." I crumpled my champagne flute delicately in one hand, savoring her demise. "Excellent. Do give Richard and me some space. We have a charity auction to win. Ta-ta!" I sauntered away after one lingering look at Derek's crestfallen face, riding the ultimate high of sweet revenge. Their reputations smoldered in ruins thanks to my flawless execution. Now, at long last, balanced justice and freedom were mine. I was ecstatic, standing in what was supposed to be the doorway to our future. But as Caleb dropped the bombshell that his parents were moving in, that doorway felt more like a trapdoor beneath my feet. "Surprise!" Caleb exclaimed with a grin, his arms wide as if expecting praise. "My parents are going to move in with us. Won't that be great?" I stood there, stunned. This was the first I'd heard of it. The joy I'd felt just moments before evaporated, replaced by a sinking feeling in my gut. We'd just finished building our dream home. I'd poured my entire life savings into it, working long hours to afford the perfect place for Caleb and I to start our new life together. After a whirlwind romance, we'd gotten married in a small ceremony 6 months ago. While Caleb's laid-back demeanor balanced my driven intensity, I sometimes worried we wanted different things. Small comments he'd made now felt like red flags. How he'd love his mom's home cooking again, how he missed seeing his parents every day. I dismissed them as sweet sentiments, but now feared they hinted at expectations I didn't share. My parents had been wholly supportive, thrilled to see their only daughter so happy. But Caleb's parents, that was another story. From our first meeting, his mother Eleanor's piercing stare and pursed lips told me she didn't approve. His meek father Don just nodded along with pursed lips. Caleb rambled on, oblivious to my dismay. "We have that huge guest suite. It's perfect. Mom's been dying to spend more time together, and Dad could use some looking after. This solves everything." I blinked hard, trying to process his words. "You already invited them to live here?" "Well, yeah," Caleb shrugged. "I figured you'd be on board. I'm so excited." He pulled me in for a congratulatory hug. I stood frozen, unable to return the embrace. My mind raced. How could he have assumed this was okay? Ambushing me like this, on today of all days? I pulled back, looking Caleb in the eyes. "Don't you think this is something we should have decided on together?" Caleb's smile faded at my tone. "I mean, they're my parents, and we have room for them. What's the issue?" I gaped at him. Was he serious? "The issue is that this is our home that I spent years saving for. You don't just get to invite whoever you want to live here without asking me." "Whoa, calm down," Caleb said, raising his hands defensively. "I figured you'd be happy about this. They're going to be your family too now." My blood boiled at his flippant response. I dreamed of a sanctuary with my new husband, full of laughter and intimacy. Instead, Caleb seemed determined to let his parents invade the space I'd sacrificed so much for. "I agreed to build a home with you, Caleb, not with your parents," I said bluntly. "We've been married for 6 months. Don't I deserve some say in my own home?" Caleb's nonchalant facade finally cracked. "Come on, don't be like this," he pleaded. "They're getting older. They can't handle being alone. Don't make me choose between you and them." I froze as his words sank in. He was guilt-tripping me, making me out to be the bad guy for not immediately agreeing to his thoughtless decision, for wanting a say in the home I'd poured my life into. In that moment, I realized that dream home suddenly felt more like a gilded cage, one designed not just for Caleb and I, but now under the watchful eyes of his parents. Surveillance masked as family togetherness. Maybe I didn't know Caleb as well as I thought, but I knew myself, and I refused to be trapped. The next few days crawled by in tense silence. I busied myself with minor tasks, avoiding eye contact whenever I passed Caleb in the halls of our not-so-dream home. The joy I'd felt moving in just weeks before had curdled into resentment. I knew Caleb's parents would be arriving any day, invited without my consent to stay for who knows how long. The thought of Eleanor and Don invading my sanctuary made my skin crawl. But Caleb refused to discuss it further, shutting down any attempt I made to set boundaries. "Can we talk about this?" I asked as we washed dishes together one night. "I'm not comfortable with your parents staying indefinitely. Maybe we could compromise on a trial period first? Caleb sighed, not meeting my eyes. You're totally overreacting, he mumbled. Just give them a chance. They're excited to help us get settled. I nearly shattered the plate I was scrubbing. Help us? More like control and criticize us if Eleanor had anything to do with it. Before I could respond, the doorbell rang. Caleb's face lit up. They're here. He dried his hands and rushed to let them in. I followed slowly, heart sinking. There went my sanctuary. I heard Eleanor's shrill voice from the foyer. Oh, what a unique little house this is. So modern. I could never live somewhere so cold and boxy, could you, Dawn? Dawn just grunted in reply. My hands clenched. I designed every inch of this home after years of effort and research. I'd chosen the clean lines and contemporary style specifically. This was my dream, not theirs. Caleb and his parents came around the corner then. Eleanor frowned at my yoga pants and t-shirt. Well, don't you look comfortable, she said with a thin smile. Caleb shot me a warning look. I forced a pleasant tone. Welcome. We're still unpacking, so please excuse the mess. Oh, think nothing of it, Eleanor waved dismissively. We're family now, after all. No need for formalities. I highly doubted she actually felt that way. I turned to Caleb, avoiding Eleanor's judgmental gaze. Why don't you show them to the guest suite so they can settle in? Caleb led them down the hall, Eleanor critiquing the barren, neutral decor along the way. As their voices faded, I slumped against the wall and took a deep breath. This was only day one. Surely I could make it work somehow. Caleb was my husband, and they were his parents. Over the next few days, that optimism crumbled. Eleanor criticized everything, from my avant-garde interior design to my immodest lounge clothes to my exotic cooking. Don trailed after her, not saying much, but occasionally chiming in with his own disparaging remark. They commandeered the kitchen, taking over meal times. They helped themselves to anything in the fridge. They left messes without cleaning up. The structured routine Caleb and I had started establishing was utterly disrupted. My attempts to discuss boundaries only led to arguments. Caleb accused me of shirking my wifely duties of keeping his parents happy. He dismissed my feelings, saying I just needed time to warm up to them. The final straw came late one night when I overheard hushed voices in the kitchen. I crept closer, realizing it was Caleb and his parents. You need to get her under control, Eleanor said sharply. She has no respect for family. Caleb sighed. I'm trying, Mom. This move was supposed to help her fall in line. She resisted at first, but I think she's coming around. I reeled, mouth falling open in shock. Fall in line? This had been their plan all along, to manipulate me into total compliance through this forced living situation. Rage roared through me. I had to take back control, starting by kicking these toxic leeches out of my home. The next morning, I woke up feeling like a pressure cooker about to blow. After what I'd overheard, any shred of optimism I had about making this work had vanished. I found Caleb in the kitchen and steeled myself. We need to talk. Now. Caleb frowned, glancing around. Keep your voice down. My parents are still sleeping. I crossed my arms. Fine, but we're having this discussion. I led him out to the back deck and took a deep breath. This isn't working. You need to tell your parents they have to move out. Caleb's eyes widened. Are you crazy? They just got here. You can't just kick them out. My anger swelled. This is my house that I paid for, and if I don't want them here, they can't stay. Caleb stepped closer, looming over me. You're being ridiculous. They're family now, whether you like it or not. I refused to be intimidated. They have treated me horribly since the moment they arrived, criticizing my home, my clothes, my cooking. Nothing is good enough for your Royal Highness Eleanor, I snapped. Caleb scowled. You're exaggerating. They're just trying to help you be a better wife and homemaker. I thought you'd appreciate the advice. I gaped at him. Help me. They've destroyed our home dynamic and undermined me at every turn. Before Caleb could argue further, we heard the back door slide open. Speak of the devil, it was Eleanor. There you are, she said to Caleb, ignoring me completely. Your father needs help programming the TV remote. This modern technology is so needlessly complicated. Caleb shot me a warning look. I'll be right there, Mom. Eleanor nodded, then wrinkled her nose at me. Oh, Jenna dear, you look so unkempt this morning. Didn't you have time to put yourself together? I was still in pajamas with messy hair at 11 a.m. on a Saturday. Not that I owed her any explanation about my choices in my own home. I forced a smile. Just focused on some other priorities first. Please excuse my appearance. She shook her head. A wife should always present herself properly. Don't you agree, Caleb? Of course, Mom, Caleb replied. My fists clenched. I wanted to scream. After Caleb left with her, I took some deep breaths. Then I heard noises from down the hall. They were rifling through my office. I rushed over to find Eleanor sitting at my desk, Dawn digging through my filing cabinet. What are you doing? I demanded. They looked up, startled. Oh, we were just looking for the takeout menus so we could order lunch, Eleanor said casually. I strode over and slammed the filing cabinet shut, barely missing Dawn's fingers. Get out! My voice was ice. Eleanor's eyes narrowed. Now, that's no way to speak to your in-laws. We were simply... I said, get out! I shouted. This is my office, my private space. You have no right to go through my things without permission. They scurried out, grumbling under their breaths about my shrill tone and disrespect. As they left, I caught a glimpse of a paper on my desk, my bank statement. Boiling rage flooded me. They had been snooping through my financial records. These toxic, manipulative leeches had to go. Today. I had tried reason, compromise, patience. None of it mattered. They believed I was an obstacle in their plan to control Caleb and get their claws further into my life. Well, they had no idea who they were dealing with. I was done being nice. I would do whatever it took to cut them out of my home and my marriage for good. After the office invasion, I'd had enough. The time had come for drastic measures. I was kicking them out. I found Caleb in the living room and asked to speak privately. He reluctantly followed me to the bedroom. Your parents need to leave. Today, I said bluntly. Caleb's eyebrows shot up. You're insane if you think I'm kicking my parents to the curb just because you can't get along with them, Caleb spat. I held firm. Either they go willingly, or I'll have them forcibly removed for trespassing. They have no rights here. This is my house. Caleb's face reddened with anger. You would really have my elderly parents thrown into the street? What kind of heartless bitch are you? His cruel words stung, but I didn't let it show. They're manipulative liars. All they've done is undermine and control me since they got here. I overheard you all conspiring to get me in line. I'm done being a pawn in your twisted family game. Panic flashed across Caleb's face. Clearly, he hadn't expected me to uncover their scheme. You're imagining things, he scoffed. They just want what's best for us. I rolled my eyes. The only thing your parents care about is controlling you and isolating you from me. If you can't see that, you're more delusional than I thought. Caleb's lips curled in a sneer. Careful, Jenna. Keep running your mouth and you'll force my hand. I stood tall. Go ahead and play your hand, because unless they leave today, mine will be an eviction notice. His eyes bored into me, jaw clenched. For a moment, I thought he might get violent, but instead he took a breath and lowered his voice. Okay, let's say they did leave. Then what? His tone turned mocking. You get your perfect little sanctuary back? Your precious home unsullied by my family? I didn't respond, waiting for him to get to the point. Here are your options. Caleb stepped closer. 1, you accept my parents living here gracefully. 2, I divorce you and take half. We sell this place and you start over. I reeled as his ultimatum sunk in. He would actually threaten to destroy our marriage, just to keep his toxic parents around. Any love I'd once felt for him dried up in that moment. Fine, I said icily. I'll have the divorce papers ready by tomorrow morning. Shock spread across Caleb's face. Clearly, he hadn't expected me to call his bluff. Too bad for him. I refused to be manipulated any longer, not even by my spineless excuse for a husband. I grabbed my purse and strode to the door. Caleb scrambled after me. Where are you going? He demanded. To contact my lawyer. I slammed the door behind me, blocking out his sputtering protests. As I pulled out of the driveway, an immense feeling of relief washed over me. I was getting my life back. Over the next few hours, I talked to my lawyer and realtor. My name was the only one on both the mortgage and deed. I had full legal claim to the house. Financial accounts were separate, with no communal assets. Caleb had no leverage. His tantrums and threats were empty. The only tie binding us was a flimsy marriage certificate, and that would soon be shredded. I returned that evening with steely calm. Caleb's parents had conveniently made themselves scarce. Caleb appeared, contrite. Look, can't we talk about this? he pleaded. I overreacted earlier. Don't do anything drastic. I held up the manila envelope from my lawyer. The only talking now will be between our attorneys. I'm filing for divorce first thing tomorrow. Caleb's face fell. For a moment I almost pitied him. He'd gambled on my compliance and lost everything. But I refused to be swayed by sentimentality. Not when my home, independence, and self-worth were at stake. He reached for me, desperation in his eyes. Jenna, please. I stepped out of reach. They'll need to be gone before the sheriff arrives to escort them out. I'll be staying in a hotel until then. Without another glance, I walked out. The dream home Caleb had lured me into was now just a crime scene. It was time to start fresh, without my failed marriage and without the in-laws from hell. The next few days passed in a blur. I split my time between my lawyer's office and the hotel, ironing out divorce details and avoiding the toxicity at home. My phone blew up constantly with calls and texts from Caleb, ranging from desperate pleading to vicious insults. His attempts to manipulate me back under his control only steeled my resolve further. I returned to the house once to check their moving progress. As expected, Caleb's parents were still clinging on. "You can't just throw us out with no place to go," Eleanor shrieked as I did a walkthrough. "I gave you fair warning," I said calmly. "You had plenty of time to make arrangements." Don scowled from the couch. "We sold our house to move here with our son, as he promised we could. Now where will we go?" I shrugged. "That's not my concern anymore. Staying here was never part of the deal." I left them ranting and went to find Caleb packing up the bedroom. His eyes were bloodshot, hair disheveled. The cocky arrogance he'd once radiated was gone. "Jenna, be reasonable," he pleaded. "We can work this out. Just tell me what you want." I paused, looking him over. The man I'd fallen for seemed like a stranger now. "What I want is for this toxic situation to end. My lawyer will be in touch." I started to leave when Caleb suddenly grabbed my wrist, hard enough to bruise. For the first time I felt afraid. "Don't do this, Jenna," he hissed through clenched teeth. "You have no idea what you're starting here." Adrenaline coursed through me. I wrenched my arm from his grip. "Threaten me again, and you'll only make things worse for yourself," I said coldly. Then I walked away without looking back. Soon enough, moving day arrived. With police on standby, the hostile holdouts were finally extracted from my home. Caleb glared daggers at me as they drove away in defeat. I stood on the front steps, surveying the mess they'd left behind. Caleb had clearly trashed the place in spite and anger, but the feeling of peace and freedom was worth any amount of cleanup. As I began tidying up, my phone rang with an unfamiliar local number. I answered hesitantly, wondering if it was another bullying tirade from Caleb, but instead a cheerful female voice responded. "Hi, is this Jenna? Caleb's wife?" I bristled at being identified that way now. "Soon-to-be ex-wife, yes." "Oh." She sounded surprised but not unkind. "I'm so sorry, I hadn't heard. I'm Lucy, chair of the Neighborhood Homeowners Association Board. We wanted to check in on the situation." As she explained further, I realized word had spread about my in-law infestation, and the community was on my side. Lucy said neighbors had observed their rude, entitled behavior around town. Everyone was appalled when they learned of their unwanted presence in my home and the abusive way Caleb had enabled them. "You're so brave for standing up to them," Lucy said supportively. "Please let us know if you need anything. We want you to feel safe and welcome here." I was touched by the unexpected compassion from relative strangers. After feeling isolated and trapped for so long, knowing others saw the injustice of what I'd endured was validating beyond measure. Over the next few days, the neighborhood outrage became even clearer. I noticed people glaring when Caleb came to pick up more of his things. Friends he'd introduced me to stopped returning his calls. No one offered him sympathy or support. At first he seemed oblivious, ranting to me about their disloyalty. But soon enough, the shunning seemed to wear him down. I caught him sitting in his car down the street one day, head in hands. For once, he seemed to grasp the impact of his actions. Not just on me, but on how the whole community now viewed him. I almost felt bad seeing him so despondent. Then I remembered the months of manipulation he'd put me through. He'd brought this social exile on himself. As I reclaimed my home and independence, Caleb was losing everything he'd tried to build here, all because he'd gambled on my obedience to his family's cruelty. He was about to learn a hard lesson about karma's payback. After finally reclaiming my home, I settled back into a comfortable routine. The constant tension, headaches, and knots in my shoulders dissipated. For the first time in months, I could relax completely in my own space, until one night when a furious pounding on the front door jolted me upright. I crept to the window and peered out cautiously. My heart dropped. It was Caleb, with his irate parents in tow. "Open up, Jenna," Caleb yelled, still pounding. "You can't lock us out of our own home." I steeled my nerves and opened the door a crack. "I told you, this is my home now. You have no right to be here." Caleb tried pushing his way in, but I held firm. Eleanor clicked her tongue disapprovingly over my shoulder. "Don't be petty, Jenna," she scolded. "We left some things behind. Let us in to collect them." I shook my head. "I'll have them delivered to you. Now please leave before I call the police." Caleb snarled, shoving hard against the door. I couldn't hold him back. They streamed in as I stumbled back. "You can't keep me from my own house," Caleb shouted, getting in my face. "We had an agreement, remember? My parents live here, or no marriage." Heart pounding, I stood up straighter. I refused to cower in my own domain. "The agreement is void now that we're getting divorced," I said firmly. "And I have full legal rights to this property. So I'm telling you one last time, get out of my house." Eleanor waved a dismissive hand. "You young people and your melodrama. You'll come to your senses eventually. Now step aside and let us by." They tried pushing past me towards the bedrooms. Adrenaline flooded my veins. I wasn't about to surrender control again. In one swift motion, I pulled out my phone and hit the panic button app linked to the security system, triggering the blaring alarm. Caleb and his parents clamped their hands over their ears, shouting in protest. I seized the moment of distraction to corral them back towards the entryway. Just then, flashing blue and red lights appeared outside as police vehicles pulled up, alerted by the alarm. The commotion must have also drawn the neighbors' attention, as heads started poking out of windows and doors down the street. 2 officers approached with stern expressions. "We received a panic alert from this residence. Is there a problem here?" Caleb tried to respond, but I stepped forward first. "Yes, officers, I need your help. My soon-to-be ex-husband and in-laws are trespassing after I've asked them multiple times to leave." I showed them the divorce paperwork and restraining order application. The officers nodded in understanding. "You 3 need to come with us," they said to my stunned intruders. Caleb protested loudly about it being his house, too, as they escorted the defiant trio out. Before the door closed, Eleanor shot me a chilling stare. "You'll regret this," she hissed. I stood in the doorway, heart pounding with adrenaline, but I held her gaze steadily. I wasn't about to show fear or weakness now, not after everything I'd overcome. This was my home, my sanctuary, and I would defend it against anyone seeking to control or destroy it. Or me. As the police cars pulled away, I turned to see my neighbors congregating, offering smiles and thumbs up. Lucy even raised her glass in a mock toast before heading back inside. For the second time, I'd faced down my tormentors. But this victory was even sweeter, knowing my neighbors had my back. I shut the front door, leaving the chaos outside. The police could handle Caleb and his parents now. I'd take back command of my inner peace. After all, karma had my side. And her payback wasn't finished yet. In the weeks after the showdown, I anxiously awaited retaliation from Caleb and his parents. But instead, what I heard surprised me. Rumors spread that Eleanor and Don had been rejected by every senior living facility they applied to, due to past behavioral issues. Forced to move far from family, they were isolated and miserable. Caleb's graphic design business began struggling too. Former clients pulled projects and refused to give referrals. His social media pages were flooded with scathing comments about how he'd mistreated me. Part of me felt bad as they faced the consequences of their actions. No matter how cruel they'd been, I hadn't wished such misfortune on them. But I also recognized this was their own karma, coming full circle. They'd tried manipulating me in my own home. Now they were the ones feeling powerless and adrift. Oddly, I found myself almost missing the daily drama and confrontation. The empty stillness of the house without Caleb was jarring. Building something from scratch had sounded energizing at first. Now the unknown path ahead seemed daunting. An unexpected knock at the door pulled me from my thoughts one quiet evening. I peered out cautiously. It was Lucy from the HOA. "Hey, Jenna, glad I caught you," she said warmly. "The neighborhood ladies were hoping you could come to our book club next week. We'd love to have you join us." I was touched by the gesture. "That's so kind of you. I'd love to come." As we chatted, Lucy gave me an update on the Caleb situation. She was on the HOA board for their new community as well, which had promptly evicted them after yet another dramatic run-in with security. I shook my head. Even completely uprooted, they hadn't changed their ways. At least I knew I'd made the right decision removing their toxicity from my life. Lucy and I soon fell into easy conversation. I realized how starved I'd been for friendship. I'd spent so long isolated, just trying to survive. Eventually, talk turned to my plans for the future. Lucy's eyes lit up as I hesitantly mentioned wanting to start a support group for women escaping toxic or abusive relationships. "Jenna, that's an amazing idea. You could help so many people who feel alone like you did," she said enthusiastically. Her encouragement filled me with renewed purpose. I dreamed of a sanctuary where people supported each other, not competed or controlled. Now I could create that myself. When book club night arrived, I entered Lucy's home with nervous anticipation. But the ladies welcomed me warmly, treating me as one of their own immediately. As we discussed the novel, one woman confided about leaving her critical, dismissive husband. Another described setting boundaries against intrusive in-laws. Their stories resonated all too well. Then they turned to me, listening intently as I shared a brief version of my own saga. The compassion and solidarity in their responses overwhelmed me. These virtual strangers had shown me more care and respect in one evening than Caleb's family had in months. I realized this must be what true community felt like. In that moment, my vision for the support group crystallized. I could channel my painful experience into helping build connections and strength. After book club, Lucy walked me out. "You're always welcome here," she said, squeezing my shoulder. I thanked her, wiping away a stray tear. Then I took a deep breath of the cool night air. For the first time in forever, it felt like home. Seasons changed, and life settled into a comfortable rhythm. My support group flourished, becoming a refuge for people healing from toxic relationships. Members celebrated victories, offered empathy for setbacks, and found strength in shared wisdom. Watching them bloom gave me a profound sense of purpose. I was determined to nurture this community so that no one else had to face hardship alone. With Caleb and his parents fading into a distant nightmare, I felt ready to start fresh. Lucy set me up on a few dates, which helped me remember laughter and romance. One night after a meetup with Andrew, a charming accountant, I came home to find Caleb sitting on my front steps. I froze, old anxieties flooding back at the sight of him. He stood up slowly, hands raised in a conciliatory gesture. "Hey, Jenna, I just wanted to talk, clear the air." Every instinct told me to turn him away, but he looked so haggard and defeated. I decided to at least hear him out. I crossed my arms. "Say what you came here to say." Caleb shuffled his feet, avoiding eye contact. "I messed up. I know that now. I was selfish and blind, and you have every right to hate me." His raw honesty surprised me. The old Caleb never would have admitted fault. "I let my parents manipulate me, and I tried doing the same to you." His voice broke. "You didn't deserve that. I'm so sorry." Part of me softened, seeing this remorseful, humbled man in place of the hostile stranger from before, but I couldn't erase the damage done. "You put me through hell," I said bluntly. "Your parents treated me horribly, and you enabled them. An apology doesn't change that." Caleb nodded, looking resigned. "You're absolutely right. I don't expect your forgiveness. I just hope someday you can find peace." He turned to leave. I thought of Andrew's warmth and support, the possibility of a partnership based on trust. A clean slate waited for me, but closure was needed first. "Caleb, wait," I called after him. He looked back, wary but hopeful. I chose my words carefully. "I appreciate you taking accountability, and I wish you well, but our paths diverged long ago." Caleb managed a sad smile. "I understand. For what it's worth, I'll always regret how things ended with us. Thank you for hearing me out." As I watched him drive away, an astonishing sense of calm washed over me. That painful chapter had finally closed. Later at book club, I told the ladies about Caleb's apology. They congratulated me on finding closure while still upholding my boundaries. "You're free of that mess for good now." Lucy said, raising her wine glass. The others cheered in agreement. Their solidarity never failed to lift me up. I realized then that the home I'd tried creating with Caleb had been an illusion. My true home was here, among these people who embraced me fully. Over time, Caleb faded to a distant memory. Meanwhile, Andrew and I grew closer, bonding over long talks, easy affection, and my awful attempts at cooking. One night, as we cuddled watching TV, Andrew gestured around my cozy living room. "You've made such a beautiful home," he said. I squeezed his hand, smiling contentedly. This house represented my resilience and independence, but it was the community I'd built that made it feel complete. "Our home," I whispered. That flicker of rage in her eyes, I'll never forget it. Sierra stood over me, the empty wine glass still dripping red onto my dress as I reeled in shock. "Whoops," she said, her voice dripping with contempt. In that moment, something ignited within me, a spark of defiance I thought had long faded. I slowly rose to my feet, the sticky wine seeping into my skin as we locked eyes in tense silence. "You spiteful witch!" My voice came out steady, undergirded by newfound strength. "How dare you? In my own home that I opened to you." Sierra scoffed. "Don't be so dramatic, Evelyn. It was an accident. Right, babe?" My eldest son, Derek, watched impassively from the sofa, offering neither defense nor apology. Sierra sauntered over, draping herself on his lap as if nothing had happened, as if she hadn't just publicly degraded his own mother. I stood motionless as they dissolved into giggles, the sting of humiliation washing over me. This was the last straw. Sierra had chipped away at my dignity ever since she married into our family 3 years ago, slowly eroding the harmony in our home. Her vanity, selfishness, and spoiled coddling by my husband had blinded Derek to her subtle cruelty. But this act of violence, masking malice with feigned innocence, opened my eyes fully to the abuse I'd quietly endured from her. From them both. My hands balled into fists. I saw myself then not as a frail 68-year-old grandmother worn by illness, but a proud fighter ready to reclaim my power. Enough was enough. I refused to let Sierra's toxicity infect our family any longer. As I retreated upstairs, my mind racing with plans, I knew the time had come to fight back. I would start by reaching out to the one person I knew I could trust unconditionally, my youngest son, Alex. "Mom, that's horrible. I had no idea," Alex said. His forehead creased in concern as I recounted the wine incident. I'd asked him to meet me discreetly at a cafe down the street from our family home, not wanting Derek or Sierra to suspect anything. "She's a parasite," I said bitterly. "I was blind to not see how she's manipulated all of us until now. She and Derek, they've been bleeding me dry financially ever since they moved in, hoarding my money to fund their lavish lifestyle while I struggle." Alex nodded gravely. "I noticed designer clothes and fancy new gadgets, but whenever I asked Derek, he'd say it was from his big promotion at work." I let out a mirthless laugh. "All lies to hide their exploitation. Sierra thinks I'm weak, an easy target, but I'll prove her dead wrong." My son regarded me with care. "What can I do to help, Mom?" I reached across the table and squeezed his hand, my first genuine smile in months creeping onto my face. With Alex by my side, I felt emboldened, like I had an army at my back. "First, I need you to quietly gather evidence about their financial abuse," I said. "Bank statements, receipts, anything we can use as proof. Confronting them outright won't work. They're too manipulative. This requires strategy." Alex nodded firmly. "Of course. What next?" I took a long sip of chamomile tea, savoring the calm before the storm I would soon unleash on Derek and Sierra. "Next," I said coolly, "we destroy their lives like they've destroyed mine." "More wine, Mother?" Sierra's mocking tone cut through the tense silence that had descended on our usually cheerful family dinner table. Ever since the spilling incident, as I'd come to call it, Sierra had taken to publicly needling me in petty ways, all under the guise of sweet concern. I simply stared back stonily, refusing to gratify her twisted bullying with any visible reaction. Sierra's painted lips twisted into a scowl at my non-response. "Oh, let it go, love." My eldest Derek jumped in, always the peacemaker blinded by his wife's superficial charms. "No need to give Mom grief. It was just an accident after all." "Some accident," Alex muttered under his breath as he aggressively speared a carrot slice. My youngest had grown increasingly disgusted by Sierra's behavior since we'd had our secret cafe strategizing session last week. "What was that?" Sierra snapped. "Nothing. Nothing." Derek, ever the oblivious optimist desperate to keep up pretenses, waved his hand. "Now, Sierra, be polite. We're lucky Mom welcomed us into her home when we needed help." I bit my tongue, holding back the fiery retort on the tip of my tongue. We all knew Sierra and Derek hadn't moved in with me out of any familial sentimentality or hardship. After recklessly draining their savings on frivolous luxuries, they'd targeted my vulnerability as a widow living alone, seeing a chance to bleed my retirement savings dry under the guise of needing shelter. Well, not for much longer, you parasites. The thought ignited a spark of anticipation within me. After dinner, I was meeting Alex at his apartment, where he would show me the financial evidence of Derek and Sierra's lies that could ruin them. "So, Derek," Alex interjected, "how's the big promotion going? Must be demanding work." Though his tone sounded innocent enough, I detected the subtle confrontation in his words, a thinly veiled suggestion that perhaps Derek's promotion was as false as the rest of the web of deception he and his wife had spun. My eldest shifted uncomfortably under Alex's gaze, a flicker of something like guilt passing over his features. "Oh, going great," he managed after a pause. "Just wrapped up a big project, so things are calmer now." "How lovely for you both," Sierra trilled, placing a hand over Derek's in a show of wifely solidarity. Her sharp eyes, however, glared daggers at Alex. Sensing the simmering tension, Derek cleared his throat and rose abruptly from the table. "Well, delicious dinner as always, Mom," he said with forced joviality. "I've got some emails to catch up on for work, so I'll excuse myself." With a quick peck to Sierra's cheek, Derek hurried off. Sierra and I locked eyes as Alex began gathering dishes. The sweet facade she adopted for my son's benefit had slipped, unveiled malice marring her perfectly made-up features. "You want a war, witch?" I thought defiantly. "You've got one now, and I intend to win." I awoke with a start, momentarily confused by the faint crashing sounds coming from downstairs. Bleary-eyed, I glanced at the clock. 2:37 a.m., blinked back angrily. My heart began to pound as more muffled bangs echoed up to my bedroom, followed by raucous laughter. Derek and Sierra. Of course. I slowly shuffled to my bedroom door and cracked it open. The couple had just returned from a rare date night out, no doubt funded by my stolen money. As their cackles grew louder, so did my boiling anger. Not only had those parasites wrecked my peaceful home with their constant demands, now they robbed me of sleep too? This had to end. Now. As I crept halfway down the stairs in darkness, the scene in my trashed living room came into focus. Derek was sprawled out on my good couch, shoes still on, and giggling drunkenly. My antique coffee table had been shoved aside carelessly, various bottles and chips littering the floor. Sierra wasn't faring much better, stumbling back from the kitchen with a bottle of my vintage wine in hand. I watched in outrage as she staggered against my bookshelf, sending a framed photo of my late husband crashing to the ground. At the shattered glass, Sierra simply cackled harder. Red-hot rage surged within me. These entitled brats had waltzed into my home, bled my bank accounts dry with manipulative lies, and now trashed my belongings like rebellious teenagers. I had enough evidence of their financial deceit to destroy them, courtesy of Alex's intel. Now this blatant property disrespect was the last straw. Steeling myself, I flicked on the lights and stomped into full view. "What in God's name do you think you're doing?" My voice boomed through the tense silence. Still in her glittering dress, Sierra froze mid-pour of the wine. Derek shot bolt upright, eyes widening at the damage surrounding him. We, he stammered before falling silent under my searing glare. After a weighted pause, Sierra let out an exaggerated sigh. "Oh, don't look so scandalized, Evelyn. We were just having a little fun." She attempted a breezy laugh and raised her glass flirtatiously towards me, as if to diffuse the situation with her usual coquettish charm. I stalked forward until we were nearly nose to nose, pleased to see a flicker of uncertainty in her made-up eyes. "How dare you?" I said, my voice low and steady despite my trembling fury. "How dare you vandalize my home that I opened to you, you ungrateful, spoiled brat?" Sierra's lips curled into a sneer. All pretenses dropped. "Or what? What will you do about it, old lady?" She stepped even closer, wine fumes assaulting my nostrils as she snarled. Nothing, because you can't do a damn thing. You're weak and helpless, completely at our mercy, so why don't you scurry off back to bed like a good little old bitch? My palm cracked across her cheek before I even realized I'd swung my fist. The slap split the heavy silence like a gunshot. As Sierra let out a shriek of pain and outrage, clutching her face, I felt a rush of dark satisfaction. "Get out," I whispered. "Both of you, get your things and get the hell out of my house." Their destruction had gone too far. It was time for war. "You can't kick us out. This is Derek's family home, too." Sierra's shrill voice echoed through the foyer. I crossed my arms, unaffected by her hysterics. After tossing the drunken couple out last night, following Sierra's cruel barbs, I'd given them until noon today to pack their things and leave. Of course, she hadn't gone quietly. "Not anymore," I said coldly. "I've shown Alex all the proof of your lies and theft. My lawyer is filing an official eviction notice today." I saw Sierra's hazel eyes flare with anger, and perhaps panic, before she caught herself. When she spoke again, her voice dripped with false sweetness. "Evelyn, let's be reasonable," she purred, sliding up to grasp my hands in faux sincerity. "This is all a big misunderstanding. We would never want to intentionally hurt you." I ripped my hands from her grip. "Save it. The bank statements prove exactly where my missing retirement money has been going, straight into funding your lavish shopping sprees." Sierra opened her mouth to retaliate, but I held up a hand. "I don't want to hear any more lies. You have 2 hours before I call the police." As I turned on my heel, I felt the familiar flare of pain in my lower back from my spinal condition. The doctor said stress always aggravated it, and dealing with these toxic leeches in my home had pushed me past my limit. Gritting my teeth against the spasms, I reached for the bottle of prescription oxycodone to ease the torment. To my dismay, I found it empty. Strange, I just had it refilled. Before I could ponder further, Sierra barged into my bedroom unannounced. "Missing something?" she asked sweetly. Dread curdled my stomach at the sight of my pill bottle dangling from her manicured fingers. "I figured you didn't need these anymore, since you'll have so much peaceful relaxation without us here nagging you." I lunged forward, but Sierra anticipated me, cackling as she danced out of reach. To my horror, I watched as she stormed into my bathroom, our bathroom, and held the pills precariously over the toilet bowl. "No! Stop! I need those!" The rest of my plea died in my throat as she let them slip from her grasp into the swirling water with a splash. My heart dropped as months' worth of precious pain relief disappeared in seconds. "Whoopsie!" Sierra tilted her head, regarding me with mock concern through her thick, mascara-coated lashes. "Butterfingers. I'd fish them out, but... ew!" Momentarily speechless with rage, I stumbled past her towards my jewelry box on the counter. If she thought a little pain would stop me from banishing them, she was dead wrong. But when I opened the box, I found it empty. Now I knew why the scheming addict had trespassed uninvited into my private space. The sight of my most treasured pearls and heirlooms stolen and discarded pushed me over the brink. With strength I didn't know I possessed, I grabbed Sierra's skinny shoulders and slammed her against the bathroom tiles. She yelped loudly. Up close, I could see a sliver of fear behind the disdain in her eyes. "You listen to me, you toxic leech," I hissed into her face. "Nothing will stop me from destroying you and Derek for what you've done." I pressed my forearm harder across her collarbone as she squirmed. "Now for the last time, get the hell out!" I stepped back, adrenaline and rage coursing through me as Sierra fled from the room. The war was on. "It's done. The eviction notice has been served," Alex said, setting a folder thick with legal documents on the cafe table. I let out a long sigh, feeling the knot in my chest loosen slightly. After Derek and Sierra's cruelty reached new heights yesterday, I'd barely slept a wink. Now the first step of my vengeance was officially in motion. "Thank you, Alex," I said, squeezing his hand gratefully. "I couldn't have faced those monsters without you by my side." My son nodded. "I still can't believe Derek refused to answer my calls last night. He knows Sierra crossed the line, but he's so deep under her spell." Disgust dripped from Alex's voice. "She's completely corrupted him," I agreed bitterly. "I just pray we can bring Derek back to his senses someday." I shook my head before taking a long draught of coffee. "But first, we make them suffer." Determination flashed in Alex's eyes. "You said Sierra physically tormented you. We could report them for elder abuse." Not enough, I said coolly. After years pandering to those parasites' wishes, I wanted to hit them where it truly hurt, their beloved social status. An idea began percolating. We need to turn their fancy social circles against them, I continued. Publicly drag their reputations through the mud, share evidence of their lies for all to see. Alex frowned uncertainly. I don't know, Mom. A reputation attack could really devastate them. I leaned forward. Exactly. Sierra and Derek care about nothing except money and admiration from their vapid country club world. So we rip that all away by exposing them. My hands trembled slightly as I recalled Sierra's mocking face. After what she did to me, what they did, they deserve no mercy. I watched Alex wrestle with his conscience before resolve hardened his expression. Okay, he agreed. Where do we start? Over the next hour, fueled by caffeine and adrenaline, Alex and I outlined our retaliation scheme. Step 1 involved anonymously sending Derek's workplace the proof of his financial deception, putting his lucrative job at risk. Meanwhile, I would subtly inform Sierra's gossip-hungry socialite friends about her treatment of me, seeding rumors that would spread rapidly. By the time Derek lost his job, Sierra's reputation would also be shredded by scandal among their social circle. Their lives here would be untenable. Checkmate. As we parted ways, Alex pulled me in for a fierce hug. It'll be okay, Mom, he said gently. We've got this nightmare handled now. Pride and optimism swelled within me then. My son was right. The dawn had arrived to banish these parasites for good. Now we would make Derek and Sierra sorry they ever darkened our door. Over the next week, Alex and I vigilantly executed our plot as Derek and Sierra scrambled to fight the eviction notice. Phase 1 went smoothly. Alex mailed reams of incriminating evidence against Derek to his bosses. Meanwhile, fueled with self-righteous fury, I dropped whispered gossip bombs among Sierra's acquaintances at social events I knew they'd attend. By the time they left each venue, tongues would already be wagging with scandal about Sierra's cruelty against a helpless old woman. Soon enough, Alex and I noted whispers dying down awkwardly as Sierra entered rooms. Eyes that were once warm with envy now glared with contempt. I even witnessed one ringleader of Sierra's clique publicly snub her at a ladies' luncheon. Watching Derek and Sierra's glittering facade slowly crack bolstered my energy. The parasites were getting a taste of long-overdue karma, and my vengeance hungered for more. Soon, the fatal blow would strike. Our scheme was unfolding perfectly. This was it. Phase 2 of my master vengeance plan went into motion today, destroying Derek's career and reputation just as he and his wicked wife have destroyed me these past bitter years. My hands trembled slightly as I carried the anonymous package into the mailroom of Derek's prestigious finance firm. Thanks to Alex's inside intel, I knew exactly when new mail deliveries arrived to ensure my parcel would land directly on the CEO's desk today. The thick manila envelope contained hard evidence of Derek's deceit. Phony promotion paperwork, emails showing him misusing company funds for personal gain. Once exposed to the light, Derek's house of lies would come crashing down spectacularly. After handing the sealed fate to the clerk, I retreated outside to meet Alex around the corner. As soon as I slid into the passenger seat, questions spilled from my son's mouth. It's done? They'll definitely see it? His eyes shone with anticipation. My lips curved into a smile. Without a doubt, I made sure to address it directly to the CEO and partners. I pictured my parasitic son squirming under his boss's scrutiny and felt a flare of dark satisfaction. Bullseye shot, Mom. Nice work, Alex grinned and reached over for a high five. As our palms slapped in camaraderie, I let out a breath I'd been holding for years since Sierra first darkened my door as Derek's vapid arm candy. Today marked the beginning of her downfall as well, and freedom for Alex and me. My phone buzzed with an update from my insider society lady, Magda. She confirmed catching Sierra drunk and belligerent at a country club luncheon today, throwing a spectacular tantrum for all the gossipy patrons to see when confronted about her treatment of me. I smirked, envisioning the scandalized faces of Seattle's most influential wives and matriarchs aghast at her audacity. Sierra's social death was all but guaranteed now. Alex and I decided to swing by a cafe near Derek's office to lay low for a few hours, not wanting to arouse suspicion by returning home too quickly. We passed the time eagerly dissecting potential scenarios, Derek being escorted out by security, Sierra's designer gal pals icing her out forever, their lavish leased cars repossessed within the month. I halfway listened as Alex prattled on about his new girlfriend and her plans to take me on a scenic mountain hiking trip. My gaze remained fixed out the window facing Derek's building, hungry for signs of implosion. Finally, just as the cafe owner flipped the open sign to closed, it happened. Derek emerged at a jog through the lobby's revolving doors. Tie loose, hair disheveled, face pale as a corpse. My breath caught as he frantically scanned the dark street before booking it towards his BMW. "Mom, look!" Alex's whispered voice barely penetrated my fixation. We both instinctively sunk lower in our seats as Derek's car roared out of the underground parking ramp and streaked by in the night. My hands, though liver-spotted with age, clenched into fists of unsated vengeance. Seeing Derek utterly unraveled after years of his soul-crushing deception tasted sweet, but like a perfectly seared steak, I hungered to fully savor the meal I'd cooked up. "One parasite down," I muttered under my breath. Alex touched my shoulder, solidarity passing between us. Now time to squash the queen bee. 1 week after Derek lost his executive job under the black cloud of scandal, Alex and I drank tea on my back patio, waiting for the other parasite shoe to drop. "Sierra missed her nail appointment yesterday," Alex said, "and salon gossip confirmed none of her circle invited her on Carol's annual Aspen trip this year." I nodded, blowing gently on my steaming cup. Bit by bit, Sierra's social bonds unraveled as my gossip campaign exposed her cruel ways. With Derek also in the doghouse, her golden perch atop Seattle's who's who started crumbling quickly. Now we anticipated the fatal blows to drive our revenge home. Right on cue, the patio door suddenly banged open. Sierra stomped out, mascara streaking her contorted face. I set my cup down, steeling my expression into cool indifference despite Sierra's histrionics. "Help me. I think my brakes were tampered with." She collapsed into the wicker chair opposite me, burying her face in manicured hands. I arched an eyebrow. Car issues were just the newest calamity plaguing her in recent weeks. "Excellent. What makes you think that?" I asked lightly, keeping my tone free of genuine concern. Alex swiveled to monitor Sierra, a perfect accomplice keeping up normal appearances. Sierra lifted her head, hazel eyes burning with fury despite the smudged makeup. "This is all your fault. Ever since your stupid eviction scheme, my life has fallen apart." She swept out a hand dramatically. "My friends shun me. Derek can't find work. Now potentially deadly car attacks. I know you're targeting me." I took a slow, leisurely sip of tea before responding calmly. "You've always been overly dramatic, Sierra. Nonetheless, I wish you and Derek nothing but the best moving forward." "Oh, cut the fake sweetness, you hag." She snatched up an empty planter pot, and for a moment I thought she might try to attack me again. Instead, she hurled it against the cedar fence with a frustrated shriek. I didn't flinch as terracotta shards exploded across the pavers at my feet. "I'd appreciate you not destroying my patio furnishings." Sierra's chest heaved rapidly, weft eyes still flashing daggers at me. But despite the aggressive posturing, her face had a hollow, worn appearance now. The queen bee's protective social armor lay in tatters, exposing her pettiness nakedly for all to see. My schemes had achieved exactly that, and I watched her crack and crumble with growing satisfaction. Just then, Alex's phone buzzed loudly in the tense silence. His eyes blew wide at the caller ID image, and he angled the screen for me to see. A glamorous woman wrapped around a shirtless, muscular man. Clearly not Derek. Bold text across the image read, "Cheating Sierra strikes again." My lips curled triumphantly. Our insider spies had captured Sierra's latest infidelity bombshell, another crushing blow I'd orchestrated to her status. Sierra lunged, but Alex yanked the phone out of reach. "That's photoshopped. I never cheated." She attempted a breezy laugh, but it came out shrill and frantic. "Right, Evelyn? Tell him that's fake." I held Sierra's panicked gaze, watching her shredded dignity burn away, my vengeance nearly complete. Finally, I drew myself up slowly. "I think it's time for you two parasites to truly leave my home." My voice rang with quiet authority. Sierra gaped, speechless. As she stormed away in surrendered defeat, Alex and I toasted over fresh tea. The parasites were banished for good. I had reclaimed my power at last. I awoke to golden rays of dawn streaming through my bedroom windows, the first morning in years where hope instead of dread propelled me out of bed. After banishing Derek and Sierra from my life forever yesterday, joyful relief now flooded my veins. I stretched slowly, for once not bothered by my creaky joints or chronic back pain. Healing was finally possible with those emotional vampires gone. I found Alex humming cheerily over a sizzling skillet when I drifted downstairs an hour later. "Morning, Mom? Celebratory cheese omelets?" He smiled brightly. My heart warmed at his infectious mood. With the parasites gone, Alex was positively thriving, his caring spirit unburdened. Over fluffy eggs and strong coffee, we chatted lightly about starting house repairs. Alex insisted on repainting Sierra's gaudy glam room gray to cleanse her tacky energy. As he rambled excitedly about redecorating visions, emotion suddenly clogged my throat. After years battling trauma alone, now I had my loyal son beside me, ready to heal wounds and reconnect. I squeezed Alex's hand tightly across the counter. "Thank you," I whispered, "for fighting with me. I love you so much." Alex squeezed back firmly. "We did this together. I'm just grateful to have my strong mom back." He smiled softly. "Those parasites will never hurt our family again." Over the next few weeks, Alex made good on his home improvement promises, while I regained vigor and mobility. Soon colorful gardens sprung up outside, while inside, cherished antique furniture emerged from basement storage back into their rightful places. Alex also urged me to share our story with others experiencing elder exploitation. "What you did was so brave, facing abusive family members," he insisted. "Your experience could help other seniors speak up, too." Weeks later at my first community center meeting, apprehension and stage fright struck me momentarily mute. But seeing the attendees' encouraging faces, I found my voice. And soon my speech about overcoming parasitic relationships through courage and strategy planning roused a standing ovation. In the whirlwind months that followed, between decor upgrades with Alex and counseling other seniors, I hardly had time to ponder Derek and Sierra's fate since their raging departure. Only vague rumors circulated among my society circles of their disgrace. So I was surprised when Alex poked his head into the living room one autumn afternoon as I reviewed brochures for an elder justice conference. "Mom, there's a woman outside asking to see you," he said carefully. My eyebrow quirked up. I rarely had unannounced visitors anymore. Before I could respond, Alex stepped back to reveal Sierra hovering behind him sheepishly. I slowly rose to my feet. Even with uncomfortably bleached hair and pounds thinner, I immediately recognized the haughty tilt of Sierra's chin. But her flashy designer clothes had been replaced by a simple turtleneck and jeans. Oddly, her hazel eyes lacked their usual combative scorn as well. I crossed my arms warily. "May I help you?" "You think you married a simple girl, but you're clueless about who I really am," I whisper under my breath, my fingers tightening around the edge of the kitchen counter. The cold marble does little to soothe the burning fury inside me, ignited by Ronan's words slicing through the air from the living room. His laughter, laced with disdain, seeps through the walls, a stark contrast to the silence enveloping me in my refuge. "I mean, Alara's great and all, but she's not exactly the brightest. Got lucky marrying into our family, if you ask me," Ronan boasts on the phone, his voice dripping with a condescension that's become all too familiar. My heart races, every beat a reminder of the drastic shift our marriage has taken. From the charming suitor who'd once courted me with grand gestures and sweet nothings, to the man who now finds sport in belittling his wife to his friends. The transformation wasn't overnight, but the descent from indifference to outright contempt and control was swift. Working in my mother's boutique was supposed to be a temporary arrangement, a way to help out while searching for something more aligned with my degree. Yet here I stand, years later, still folding clothes and dodging my husband's barbs about my lack of ambition. "If only you knew," I mutter to the empty room, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. Ronan's voice grows louder, pulling me from my thoughts. "Honestly, thought her family had more money. You know, with the boutique and all. Turns out, not so much." The revelation stings, not because of the truth in his words. Our financial struggles are no secret to me, but because of the implication. He married me under false pretenses, his affections as fabricated as the persona he paraded during our courtship. The facade crumbles a little more each day, revealing the true extent of his expectations. A hefty dowry, and a wife who would bend to his every whim. But beneath the veneer of the compliant spouse, a storm brews, fueled by the discovery of his hidden debts and gambling habits. The weight of his duplicity presses down on me, a constant reminder of the life I've been ensnared in. A plan begins to form, vague and unrefined, but it's a start. A way out of the shadows, to cast light on the man behind the mask. The thought is both terrifying and exhilarating. Patience, I remind myself, echoing my mother Sylvia's advice. She doesn't know the full extent of Ronan's transgressions, but she's always sensed the turmoil beneath my calm exterior. The sound of Ronan ending his call pulls me back to the present, the immediate need to conceal my turmoil paramount. I straighten, schooling my features into a mask of indifference before stepping back into the living room. Ronan doesn't spare me a glance, too engrossed in his phone, and for a moment, I'm grateful for the neglect. The evening passes with minimal interaction, a dance we've perfected over the months. But as I lay in bed, Ronan's snores filling the room, I can't help but feel the shift within me. The veil has lifted, and with it, the resolve to no longer be the victim in my own story. Tonight, the seeds of rebellion are sown, watered by the bitter tears of realization and the silent vow of retribution. Tomorrow, I begin to fight back, armed with the truth and the determination to reclaim my life from the ruins of a marriage built on deceit. The sun hadn't even crept through the curtains before Ronan's voice pierced the morning silence, a harbinger of the storm to come. "Alara, what's this? The coffee tastes like mud." His words, sharp and unforgiving, sliced through the last remnants of sleep clinging to my consciousness. I must have mixed up the measurements, I stammer, my voice barely above a whisper as I rush to his side, mug in hand. The truth is, the coffee is the same as it always is, but with Ronan, any minor deviation, or imagined one, is grounds for criticism. "Useless," he mutters under his breath, pushing the mug into my hands with such force that the hot liquid sloshes over the sides, scalding my skin. I wince, but dare not let the pain show. Showing weakness only fuels his disdain. As I turn to remake the coffee, trying to steady my trembling hands, Ronan's voice follows me, relentless. "And make sure breakfast is ready on time today. I have an important meeting. Can't afford to be late because you're dawdling." The morning wears on, each moment laden with tension. Breakfast is a silent affair, Ronan buried in his phone, occasionally throwing out commands or criticisms. The eggs are too runny, the toast not crisp enough. It seems there's no end to his displeasure. It's during these moments, caught in the cyclone of Ronan's demands, that I ponder the drastic change in him. The man I married, who once spoke of love and partnership, now sees me as little more than a servant in his grand scheme of life. The realization stings, a bitter pill swallowed daily. The door slams shut behind him, a temporary reprieve from his tirades. But the silence left in his wake is heavy, a constant reminder of the farce my life has become. I clear the breakfast dishes, my movements automatic, thoughts miles away. It's in this mechanical state that I find the envelope, used hidden beneath a pile of unopened bills, a reminder of another of Ronan's secrets. His gambling habits, once a mere whisper of concern, have ballooned into a full-blown storm, threatening to engulf us both. The numbers scrawled across the bills are astronomical, figures that we can't possibly hope to cover with the boutique's modest earnings and Ronan's dwindling salary. I sit, the weight of the envelope in my hands, a tangible symbol of the lies and deceit that have woven their way through our marriage. It's this moment, this tangible proof of Ronan's betrayal, that solidifies my resolve. No longer can I stand idly by, a spectator in my own life. The day drags on, each tick of the clock a reminder of the evening confrontation that awaits. When Ronan returns, his mood is foul, the remnants of whatever transpired at his meeting written clearly across his face. Before I can brace myself, he's upon me, his words a torrent of blame and anger. "Do you have any idea how much pressure I'm under? And what do I come home to? A wife who can't even make a decent cup of coffee." The accusations sting, but they also fuel a fire within me. "Ronan, we need to talk about the bills. The gambling debts. We can't." He cuts me off with a scoff, his eyes narrowing. "Oh, so now you're keeping tabs on me? I work day in, day out, and this is the thanks I get?" The argument spirals, his anger a palpable force that threatens to consume the room. But amidst the chaos, a clarity settles over me. This isn't just about surviving Ronan's tirades anymore. It's about reclaiming my life, piece by shattered piece. I won't let you drag us down with your debts, I assert, my voice steadier than I feel. We're going to fix this, but not like this. Not with lies. Ronan's response is a sneer, a promise of more battles to come. But as I stand my ground, I realize that this is just the beginning. The facade of our marriage has crumbled, revealing the rot beneath. And it's up to me to clear the wreckage, to forge a path out of the despair Ronan has cloaked us in. A year into our marriage, the facade of harmony has not just cracked but shattered, revealing the grim reality of our union. Ronan's abuse, both verbal and emotional, has escalated, pushing me into a corner of isolation and despair. Yet, it's in this darkness that a plan begins to take shape, a beacon of hope in the relentless storm. Sitting across from my mother, Sylvia, in the dim light of the boutique after hours, I finally muster the courage to voice the truth. Mom, Ronan's not who we thought he was. The gambling, the debts, it's worse than I ever imagined. Sylvia's expression, a mix of concern and resolve, doesn't waver. Alara, you've been carrying this burden alone for too long. It's time we face this head on. But how? He's made it clear he won't change. And now there's talk of selling the boutique to cover his debts. I confess, the words tasting bitter on my tongue. We won't let that happen, Sylvia asserts, her voice firm. It's time Ronan understood the consequences of his actions. We've been silent for too long. The strategy we devise is simple, yet daring. We'll confront Ronan, not with accusations, but with the stark reality of our financial situation. It's a gamble, but one we're willing to take to expose his true motives. The opportunity presents itself one evening when Ronan, in a rare moment of calm, mentions the boutique. Alara, we need to talk about selling. It could solve a lot of our problems. Standing in our living room, I feel Sylvia's supportive presence behind me as I face him. Ronan, the boutique isn't the problem, it's the solution. Your gambling is what's brought us here. Ronan's reaction is immediate, his face contorting with anger. So this is my fault? I'm working day and night, and you blame me? It's not about blame. It's about reality. Your debts are drowning us, and selling the boutique won't fix that, I reply, my voice steady despite the shaking of my hands. Sylvia steps forward, her demeanor unyielding. The boutique has been in our family for generations. It's not just a business, it's our legacy, and we won't let it be destroyed by recklessness. Ronan's gaze shifts between us, a mixture of surprise and defiance in his eyes. You think you can dictate what I do? It's my name on the line. But it's our lives at stake, I counter, emboldened by my mother's strength. We're willing to work with you, Ronan, but not at the expense of our future. The standoff ends with Ronan storming out, his threats echoing behind him. But in his absence, a sense of unity fortifies between my mother and me. For the first time in months, I feel a flicker of hope. The following days are tense, with Ronan's mood swinging wildly. Yet there's a shift in the air, a sense that the tide may be turning. My resolve hardens with each passing moment, the plan to expose Ronan's true motives gaining clarity. One evening, as I sit alone in the boutique pondering the path ahead, a knock at the door jolts me from my thoughts. It's Jude, an old friend and confidant, whose unexpected visit brings a sense of normalcy to my chaotic world. Alara, I've been worried about you. How are you holding up? Jude's concern is genuine, a balm to the wounds inflicted by months of turmoil. It's complicated. Ronan's not the man I thought he was, I admit, the words flowing more freely than I anticipated. Jude listens intently, his expression a mix of anger and sympathy. You don't have to go through this alone, Alara. If there's anything I can do. It's in this moment, confiding in Jude, that the final piece of our plan crystallizes. Ronan's actions, once hidden behind closed doors, will soon be brought to light. With Jude's unexpected support, the journey toward justice and revenge seems less daunting. Together, we begin to lay the groundwork for Ronan's public exposure, a step toward reclaiming my life from the ruins of a marriage built on deceit and manipulation. The flu hit me like a freight train, leaving me bedridden and weak. In any other household, sickness might elicit a modicum of sympathy or care. But in mine, it's seen as nothing more than an inconvenience, a failure to fulfill my duties as Ronan's wife. Alara, this place is a mess, Ronan barks, his voice booming through the small, dark, cluttered apartment that's felt more like a prison than a home these past months. And what's this? You're still in bed? It's nearly noon. Struggling to sit up, I clutch the blanket tighter around my shivering body. I'm really not well, Ronan. I can barely stand, I manage to say, my voice weak and hoarse. Ronan's glare is icy as he surveys the room, his disgust palpable. Sick? Or just lazy? You know, I can't rely on you for anything. His words cut deeper than the sharp pains racking my body. It's in this moment of vulnerability, faced with his unrelenting cruelty, that the resolve within me hardens further. I need to escape this cycle of abuse, not just for my sake, but for my sanity. As Ronan storms out, presumably to find solace in his vices, I'm left alone with my thoughts and a growing sense of desperation. It's then that I remember Jude's offer of support. Picking up my phone feels like lifting a boulder, but the need for an ally, for someone to understand, gives me strength. Jude answers on the second ring. Alara, how are you? Jude, I need help, I admit, the admission of weakness bringing tears to my eyes. There's no hesitation on his end. I'll be right there, he says, and the line goes dead. When Jude arrives, the concern in his eyes is a stark contrast to the disdain I've grown accustomed to from Ronan. He doesn't recoil at the sight of the disarray or my disheveled state. Instead, he steps forward, ready to offer whatever aid he can. Alara, tell me what to do. How can I help? Jude asks, his voice steady and comforting. Just being here is more than enough, I reply, a small smile breaking through the gloom. Together, we tidy up the space, his presence a calming force in the storm that has become my life. It's during this rare moment of peace that I confide in Jude the full extent of Ronan's behavior, the manipulation, the debts, and the emotional torment. Jude listens in silence, his expression hardening with each revelation. This can't go on, Alara. You deserve so much better, Jude says once I've finished, his conviction clear. I know, but I'm not sure what to do. I feel so trapped, I confess, the weight of my situation bearing down on me. Jude's response is immediate and resolute. We'll find a way. You're not alone in this. Remember that. As Jude leaves, promising to return with help, I'm left with a newfound sense of determination. His visit, though brief, has reignited the flame of resistance within me. I can't change the past, but with Jude's support, I can fight for a future free from Ronan's tyranny. The days that follow are a blur of planning and whispered conversations. Jude becomes an invaluable ally, offering both emotional support and practical assistance. Together, we begin to document Ronan's abuses, compiling evidence for the day when we can finally expose him and break free from his grasp. It's a dangerous game we're playing, one fraught with risk and uncertainty, but the alternative, a life of continued abuse and despair, is no longer an option. With each passing day, my resolve strengthens, fueled by the support of my unlikely ally and the hope for a brighter future. The path to freedom is fraught with obstacles, but for the first time in a long time, I dare to believe that escape is within reach. Jude's unexpected visit had breathed new life into my wilted spirit, his presence a beacon of hope in the unending night that had become my existence. It was during one of these visits, as we sat plotting our next move in the quiet sanctuary of my mother's boutique after hours, that fate decided to twist the knife a bit further. Ronan, in a rare and unforeseen move, decided to grace the boutique with his presence. His sudden appearance at the door was like a storm cloud blotting out the sun, casting a shadow over the newfound hope I had clung to so desperately. Alara, what the hell is this? Playing shop while the house falls apart. Ronan's voice boomed through the space, his words laced with venom. Jude, ever the pillar of calm in the face of adversity, stood beside me, an unwavering ally against Ronan's tempest. Everything's under control, Ronan. Maybe you should head back, Jude suggested, his tone firm yet diplomatic, a stark contrast to Ronan's aggression. Ronan's eyes narrowed, his gaze flitting between Jude and me, suspicion igniting like wildfire in his eyes. And who are you to tell me what to do? Another of Alara's little projects? The tension in the air was palpable, a tangible force that seemed to squeeze the very breath from my lungs. Yet, despite the fear that clawed at my insides, a spark of defiance flickered to life. Jude is a friend, someone who actually cares about my well-being, I retorted, my voice stronger than I felt. Ronan's laugh was cruel, a sound that sent shivers down my spine. A friend, huh? Don't make me laugh. You're pathetic, Alara, both of you. It was then, amidst the torrent of Ronan's insults, that Jude did something unexpected. He pulled out his phone, subtly positioning it to capture the tirade. Ronan, too caught up in his own fury, failed to notice the silent witness documenting his every word. As Ronan stormed out, leaving a trail of bitter words in his wake, Jude turned to me, his expression grave. I got it all on video, Alara. This could be what we need to expose him. The realization of what Jude had done, of the weapon we now possessed, was overwhelming. A mixture of fear and exhilaration flooded through me, the implications of our actions both terrifying and thrilling. Thank you, Jude. I don't know what to say. Jude's smile was gentle, a balm to the chaos that had erupted. You don't have to say anything. Just know you're not alone. In the days that followed, the video became the cornerstone of our plan. Jude, with contacts in local media and a keen sense of justice, began laying the groundwork for Ronan's exposure. Our meetings were filled with whispered strategies and cautious optimism, each step forward a delicate dance on the tightrope of revenge. The decision to go public was not made lightly. The potential fallout loomed large, a specter of consequence that could not be ignored. Yet, the need for justice, for an end to the cycle of abuse, outweighed the fear. It's time, Alara. Are you ready? Jude asked one evening, his finger hovering over the send button that would catapult our carefully guarded secret into the unforgiving light of public scrutiny. Taking a deep breath, I nodded, the weight of the moment settling heavy on my shoulders. I'm ready. Let's do this. With a single click, Jude set the wheels of retribution in motion. The video, a damning testament to Ronan's true nature, was sent spiraling into the digital ether, a harbinger of the storm to come. As we waited for the inevitable backlash, a sense of peace settled over me. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, I dared to hope for a future free from the shadows of Ronan's tyranny. The battle was far from over, but with Jude by my side, I felt invincible. Together, we had ignited the flame of justice, and now there was no turning back. The morning after sending the video felt like the calm before the storm. The silence was almost deafening, a stark contrast to the chaos I knew was brewing on the horizon. Jude and I met at the boutique, our unofficial war room, waiting for the inevitable explosion that would come once Ronan discovered his sins laid bare for all to see. It wasn't long before the first signs of the tempest appeared. My phone buzzed relentlessly, notifications flooding in as the video spread like wildfire across social media platforms. The local news had picked up the story, amplifying it further, the headline screaming betrayal and deceit. Alara Morris exposes husband's abuse and deceit. It read, a simple yet powerful declaration of my stand against Ronan. As the world watched, Ronan's carefully constructed facade crumbled. Friends, colleagues, and even strangers voiced their support for me, their words a balm to the wounds inflicted over the years. But with the support came backlash, Ronan's defenders crawling from the woodwork, their words sharp and unforgiving. I was preparing for another day at the boutique when Ronan stormed in, his face a mask of rage and humiliation. You've ruined me, Alara, he spat, his voice trembling with fury. How dare you air our dirty laundry for the world to see? Standing my ground, I met his gaze, the fear that once would have crippled me, now replaced by a steadfast resolve. No, Ronan, you did this to yourself. I'm just shedding light on the truth. The confrontation was intense, Ronan's anger clashing with my newfound strength. Jude was there, a silent sentinel, ready to intervene if necessary. But it was clear Ronan's power over me had diminished, his threats empty in the face of my determination. You'll pay for this, Ronan hissed, a final desperate attempt to regain control. But his words no longer held sway over me. I already have, Ronan. Now it's your turn. The fallout from the video was swift and merciless. Ronan's professional life unraveled as his employer, faced with public pressure, terminated his position. His social circle, once a fortress of support, crumbled as friends and acquaintances distanced themselves, unwilling to be associated with a man exposed as an abuser and manipulator. With each passing day, the reality of his situation seemed to weigh heavier on Ronan, his once confident demeanor replaced by a sullen, defeated air. The tables had turned, and the predator found himself the prey, isolated and ostracized by the very community he had once dominated. For me, the days became a blur of interviews and meetings, my story a rallying cry for those who had suffered in silence. The support was overwhelming, a testament to the power of truth and the resilience of the human spirit. As Ronan's world collapsed around him, a sense of vindication filled me. It wasn't joy. There was no joy in the pain and suffering that had led to this moment, but a deep, profound sense of justice. For too long, I had lived in the shadows of Ronan's tyranny, but no more. The battle was far from over. Legal proceedings loomed on the horizon, a daunting path fraught with its own challenges. But as I stood in the boutique, now a beacon of hope and defiance, I knew I was ready to face whatever came next. With Jude by my side and a community of supporters behind me, I stepped into the light, a survivor no longer defined by the abuse I had endured, but by the strength I had found in my fight for justice. Ronan's downfall was not the end of my story, but the beginning of a new chapter, one written on my terms, in my voice. The repercussions of Ronan's exposure reverberated far beyond the initial shockwave, eroding the very foundation of his existence. His professional downfall was swift, a stark reminder of the consequences of his actions. But it was the personal fallout that truly marked the beginning of his undoing. Ronan, once a fixture in social circles, now found himself ostracized, a pariah in the community he had dominated. The isolation was a bitter pill to swallow, each day a reminder of the empire of lies he had built and lost. I watched from a distance, my resolve unshaken, as Ronan grappled with his new reality. The boutique became my sanctuary, a place of strength and solidarity. Jude was a constant presence, his support unwavering as we navigated the aftermath together. It was during one of our strategy sessions that Ronan made his last desperate attempt to regain control. He barged into the boutique, his eyes wild with desperation. "Alara, you have to stop this. You're destroying everything." His plea was met with cold indifference. "You did this to yourself, Ronan. I'm just seeking justice." Ronan's gaze flickered between Jude and me, searching for any sign of weakness. But there was none to be found. "You'll regret this," he muttered, a hollow threat that no longer held any power. The legal proceedings were grueling, a drawn-out battle that tested my limits. But with each passing day, I grew stronger, more confident in my pursuit of justice. Ronan's attempts to undermine me fell on deaf ears, his credibility shattered by his own actions. As the divorce settlement was finalized, I couldn't help but feel a sense of relief wash over me. The court awarded me a substantial portion of Ronan's assets, a small compensation for the years of deceit and abuse. But it was more than just financial security. It was a symbol of my victory over Ronan, a tangible proof of my newfound independence. "You're free now, Alara," Jude said, his voice filled with pride. The words resonated deep within me, a beacon of hope in the aftermath of the storm. I know, it's finally over. In the months that followed, Ronan's life continued to unravel. His attempts to rebuild his reputation were futile, the stain of his actions indelible. The man who had once held so much power was now a shadow of his former self, struggling to navigate a world that had turned its back on him. For me, the end of my marriage to Ronan marked the beginning of a new chapter. The boutique thrived, a testament to my resilience and determination. And with each passing day, I found strength in my independence, my spirit no longer weighed down by the chains of the past. As I stood in the boutique, surrounded by friends and supporters, I couldn't help but reflect on the journey that had brought me here. The road had been long and fraught with challenges, but I had emerged stronger, a survivor in the truest sense. "Here's to new beginnings," Jude toasted, raising his glass in a salute. I smiled, my heart full of gratitude for the support that had carried me through the darkest of times. "To new beginnings," I echoed, my voice steady and sure. The battle was over, but my story was just beginning. A story of hope, of courage, and of a woman who refused to be silenced. Ronan's downfall was not just a victory for me, but for all those who had suffered in silence, a beacon of light in the darkness. As I looked around at the faces of my friends and supporters, I knew that this was not the end, but a new beginning. A chance to rebuild, to dream, and to live a life free from the shadows of the past. In the aftermath of Ronan's downfall, life began to take on a new rhythm, one marked by peace rather than turmoil. The boutique, once a silent witness to my suffering, became a vibrant hub of creativity and empowerment. With each passing day, I found myself stepping more confidently into the role of proprietor, my mother's legacy now firmly in my hands. It was during a quiet morning, the sun casting a warm glow over the newly arranged displays, that Sylvia approached me, her eyes shining with unspoken pride. "You've done well, Alara. Your strength has turned this place into more than just a boutique. It's a symbol of hope." Her words, simple yet profound, filled me with a sense of accomplishment. "Thanks, Mom. It feels good to be free to make a difference." The boutique had become more than just a business. It was a community. Women from all walks of life came not just to shop, but to share their stories, finding solace and strength in the solidarity we offered. And as my story became known, the boutique's mission evolved, transforming into a beacon for those seeking to reclaim their lives from the shadows of abuse. One afternoon, as I was rearranging a window display, a familiar face appeared on the other side of the glass. Jude, his supportive presence a constant throughout my journey, stepped inside, a smile playing on his lips. "Looks like you've turned this place into something truly special, Alara," he commented, his gaze sweeping over the vibrant interior. I smiled, acknowledging the truth in his words. "It's become more than I ever imagined, and it's all thanks to the support of friends like you." Jude's smile widened. "I wouldn't have missed it for the world. You've turned your pain into something powerful, Alara. You should be proud." Our conversation was interrupted by the arrival of a customer, a young woman whose eyes held a familiar flicker of resolve. As Jude excused himself, I turned my attention to her, ready to offer the same support that had once been extended to me. The boutique was not just a place of business. It had become a sanctuary, a place where stories of pain and resilience were woven into the very fabric of its existence. And as I shared my journey, I found strength in the shared experiences, a collective healing that transcended the personal. In the months that followed, my advocacy work grew, the boutique serving as a launching pad for initiatives aimed at supporting survivors of domestic abuse. Seminars, workshops, and support groups filled our calendar, each event a step towards breaking the silence that had once kept me prisoner. As I closed the boutique one evening, the last rays of sunlight casting a soft glow over the empty space, I allowed myself a moment of reflection. The journey had been long, filled with moments of despair and triumph, but as I stood there, surrounded by the tangible evidence of my resilience, I felt a deep, abiding sense of peace. Ronan's shadow no longer loomed over my life. Instead, I had emerged from the darkness, my spirit unbroken, my resolve unwavering. The boutique, once a reminder of my pain, was now a testament to my strength, a symbol of hope for those walking the path I had once trod. As I locked the door and stepped out into the evening, the cool air brushing against my skin, I felt a profound sense of closure. The battle was over, and I had emerged victorious, not just over Ronan, but over the fear and doubt that had once held me captive. Walking away from the boutique, I looked up at the stars, their light a reminder of the endless possibilities that lay ahead. The future was mine to shape, a blank canvas awaiting the touch of my hand. And as I took those first steps into the unknown, I knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, I would face them with the same courage and determination that had led me to this moment of rebirth. The end of my marriage to Ronan was not just an ending. It was the beginning of a new chapter, one filled with hope, healing, and the promise of a brighter tomorrow.